Welcome to HaEzer Halacha series. We are in Siman Aleph in Halacha, Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, and Yud Dalet. That's Siman1 Halacha number 11, 12, 13, and 14. With today's class, we conclude Siman Aleph. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Aleph in Halacha Yud Aleph begins, Tov la'asot takana b'cheramot v'niduim, al mi she'isa isha al ishto. The Shulchan Aruch, even though we've been speaking up to now in the whole Siman Aleph, we've been speaking up to now that by the Sephardim, the cherem is no longer applicable. Nevertheless, the Shulchan Aruch says over here that it is good to make a regulation with bans and excommunications on anyone who's going to marry another woman on top of his original wife. So even though we see according to the Shulchan Aruch, like we saw in the previous halachot, he said the ban already finished a long time ago and it's no longer applicable and it's also not our custom. Nevertheless, Rabotai, the Shulchan Aruch over here is reinforcing the idea of the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. And he's telling us it is good to go and regulate this whole concept of men marrying more than one wife. And to make a regulation that if you have a man that marries another woman on top of his original wife, we should ban him, we should excommunicate him. There should be some form of regulation that is regulating this idea of the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. So that's it. This is Halacha Yud Aleph. Tov la'asot takana b'cheramot v'niduim. It is good to make a regulation or an institution with bans and excommunications. Anyone who's going to marry another woman on top of his original wife. Next halacha in Halacha Yud Bet. If a person swore that he's not going to marry another woman on top of his wife, and he waited 10 years and his wife didn't give birth, they're not able to have children, what should he do? He swore. He says, Siman Kuf Yudchet is going to be explained in Siman 118. Halacha Yud Gimel. Isha eina mitzvah al pri'ah u'revi'ah. A woman is not commended on the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying. A woman does not have an obligation to bring children into the world. And he says, look into Siman Kuf Nun Dalet, that's 154. Even though a woman is not obligated in the mitzvah of bringing children to the world, nevertheless comes the Ramah and he says, Umikol Malkom, and nevertheless, Yesh Omrim, there are those that say, Dilo ta'amod bilo ish mishum chashadam. A woman still should not be without a husband because of suspicion. When a woman lives alone, people start assuming that she's doing forbidden relations with other men, even if she's not doing it. It's all a suspicion. People start suspecting her. Maybe she's going around, here and there and doing things. For example, there was a certain person, I'm not going to say who or what, that unfortunately was divorced. With many children, for whatever reason, they got divorced. The rumor on the block was she used to come very late home. Now, if a woman who's divorced and she's coming home 1, 2 o'clock, she could be at work for all I care. I don't know where she's being. But the rumor on the block was that she's going to this guy's house and then she's going to that guy's house. That means she's shopping around for other men. She goes, she does what she has to do and come back. Even though she never did it. Even though she was a religious woman. A woman whose mamish religion, who kept Shabbat kashrut, dressed modest. But again, people, it was a rumor, and that's what we don't want. We don't want people suspecting you, chas v'shalom, that you are doing who knows what. And that's what the Ramah says. Nevertheless, the Ramah says, even though you're not obligated to bring children to the world, you might have thought you are exempt from getting married. The Ramah says, look, fine, you're not obligated to bring children to the world. Nevertheless, he says, Yesh Omrim, there are those that say, do not be without a husband. Mishum chashada, because of suspicion. We don't want people to give you a bad name. That's all. Now there is a Ber Heitev. He says, do you know who also paskins like this? Like this Rama, you know who paskins like this? The Rambam. Ken katav Rambam beperik tetvav mihilchot ishut. The Rambam also says that a woman should not be without a husband because of suspicion. However, the Ber Heitev says doesn't make sense. Look what he says. Beautiful piece. V'tema says, and wow, how can the Rambam say such a thing that a woman is not allowed to be without a husband because of suspicion? That doesn't make sense. Why? Because he has another teaching where clearly it states a woman doesn't have to get married. So it comes out that teaching is contradicting this teaching. Look what he says. He says, V'tema, the beperik chav aleph mi hilchot isur bia. Katav, the Rambam wrote over there, V'reshut li'isha shelo tinaseh la'olam. I gotta highlight, it's difficult. 1 second. Wow. Rabotai, listen to this. The Rambam himself says, it's optional. It's up to the woman. If she wants to marry, she can marry. If she doesn't want to marry, the Rambam says, Shelo tenaseh la'olam. V'reshut li'isha shelo tenaseh la'olam. It's optional for a woman never ever to get married. So the Ber Heitev is saying, I don't understand, how could it be? Over here we're saying that this halakha that the Rama said, that a woman shouldn't be without a man because of suspicion, that's the same halakha that the Rambam brought down. You know where it's brought down, by the way? Let me just see in my book. I don't know if you guys know, this is a very good book to use. Shulchan Aruch, HaEzer. It's Mahadur Friedman. It's very clear. It's big words, you know. It's very nice. So he says over here, and by the way, he gives you the sources where it's found. So he says like this. Let me just look it up over here. Oh, Ken katav Rambam beperik tetvav mihilchot ishut halacha tet zayin. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see, but in the brackets over here, I have halacha tet zayin. So how could it be the Rambam says in halacha tet zayin, this halacha that a woman should get married? Why should she get married? Not because of having children, because we don't want people giving her a bad name. We don't want people start to suspect her that she's, going around with other men. And somehow over here in Perik Chav Aleph, Mihilchot Isur Bia, let me see where that halacha is found. Oh, in Halacha Chavav, you see this? In Halacha Chavav, that's 26. Katav, the Rambam wrote, V'rishut li'isha shelo tinaseh la'olam. It's optional for a woman that she never has to get married. If she doesn't want to get married, she never has to get married. Or tinaseh l'saris, ayin sham. Or she's able to marry a saris. Who's a saris? A saris is a guy that's never going to be able to have children. The Rambam writes in Hilchot Isur Bia, in Halacha Chavav, that a woman, it's up to her. If she never wants to get married, she doesn't have to get married. If she wants to get married, she could even go ahead and get married to a person that's not childbearing. So why over here is the Rambam telling us over here in Hilchot Ishut in Perek Tetvav in Halacha Tetzayin, a woman must get married because of chashada? Well, I don't get it. Make up your mind. Is a woman obligated to get married because of suspicion? Or is a woman not obligated to get married? And there's no suspicion. What's going on? So let's see the question one more time. The Ber Heitev says, this Pesach Halacha that the Ramah brings down over here, this Pesach Halacha, he says, so too is brought down in the Rambam, in Perek Tetvav, in Halachot of Ishut, of marriages, in Halacha Tet Zayin. That's number one. Comes the Ber Heitev and says, V'tema, it doesn't make sense. How can the Rambam say such a thing? Why? The Beperk of aleph Mihilchot Isur Bia, Katav, he wrote, V'rishut li'isha shelo tinaseh la'olam. He said it's optional for a woman never to get married. So why is the Rambam telling me in Perek Tetvav Mihilchot Ishut, in Halacha Tet Zayin, why is he telling me over there that a woman should get married because of suspicion? Why? Rabotai, you hear the question? This is a good question. Now, continues the Ber Heitev and he says, V'yesh liyashiv, you could settle this. It's not a contradiction. You know who the Rambam was, Rabotai? It's not a contradiction. Try to go ahead and put, by the way, this is one of the Rambam's books, the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam. try to go ahead and put this type of Torah together. He took the whole Talmud, everything, and he organized it. The Rambam knows what he was doing about time. So that's why it's really not a question. Comes the Behetiv and he says, V'yesh liyashav, you can settle it like this. Dimash katav HaRambam b'Hilchot Ishut, this that the Rambam wrote in Hilchot Ishut right over here, this one right here, regarding Chashada. Delo ta'amod b'lo ish, when he said a woman should not be without a man because of suspicion, meaning to say she should get married. You know what the Rambam was telling you? Hu mitzad eitza tova delo techashed. That's only, as a sound advice that people should not suspect it. That's all he was telling her. Not that she's obligated to get married. He's just giving her sound advice. He's telling her, look, you don't want people to speak bad about you. You know what you have to do? Go get married. He's just giving her sound advice. V'sham b'hilchot isur biyah al pi hadin. Over there, in halachot of isur biyah, over there where he said that a woman never ever has to get married if she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to. Over there it was speaking according to the letter of the law. From the halachic standpoint, it's optional for a woman never ever to get married. You don't even have a prohibition from the rabbis when it comes to her. You don't have the prohibition of Shevet Yatzara, where a man has a prohibition, where he still has to populate the world. A woman does not have that prohibition. Also, you don't have the prohibition of a woman thinking bad thoughts, where a man does have it. Masha'enken, which would be the case, Gabi Didei, when it comes in regards to the guy. V'kala havan, and it's simple to understand. Kenesa Gadolu Bahardacha Beit Yuzain Cheder Yordei. Rabotai, you have to understand like this. Comes the Rambam and he says like this. According to the letter of the law, it's optional for a woman never ever to get married. If she doesn't want to marry, she never ever has to get married. Not only she's not obligated to get married, she doesn't even do a prohibition on a rabbinical level. Where we said l'shevet yatzara or hirur. Those prohibitions don't apply to her. These prohibitions apply to men. For example, even though a man fulfilled the mitzvah of pru'urvu, he already has, let's say, boy and a girl according to Beit Hillel. Nevertheless, he cannot stop from having children. Why can't he stop? Because he has the mitzvah of l'shevet yatzara. He still has the mitzvah of bringing more children to the world. So therefore, even if a man did the mitzvah of pru'urvu, can he stop? He's not allowed to stop. He has a mitzvah to continue bringing more children to the world. What happens if you have a guy that is divorced and he already did the mitzvah of pru'urvu? Does he have to get remarried? Yes, he has to get remarried. Why? Because he has the mitzvah of l'shevet yatzar. He has the mitzvah of populating the world. What about if a guy is divorced? Can he be without a wife even though he fulfilled the mitzvah of pru'urvu? Not only because of the shevet yatzar, we're going to tell him to go ahead and get married, but even, let's say, he cannot perform no longer. He could no longer bring more children to the world. Nevertheless, we're going to tell him there's still another prohibition on you, which is what? Hirur bad thoughts. We don't want the guy to have bad thoughts, so we're going to tell him, you should always go get married, because it's not good for men to be alone. By the woman, it's not applicable, these things. The l'shevet yatzar and the hirur is not applicable. So that's what Rabotai, when the Ber Heitev brought down over here, how can this be brought down in the Rambam, that a woman has to get married, because if she doesn't get married, people are going to suspect her. So we see from there that a woman has an obligation to get married. But we see from another place, the Rambam says a woman has no obligation. If she wants, she can decide never to get married. So the Ber Heitev answered, he says what? This where the Rambam says, or better yet, this where the Rambam writes that a woman has to get married because of suspicion, he's only giving sound advice so people shouldn't suspect her. But he's not telling you that she's obligated. Over there where he writes that a woman, if she wants, the option is in her hands. If she wants, she could never ever get married. That's according to the letter of the law. She never has to get married. And not only that, she doesn't even do a prohibition on the rabbinical level, where by a man you have it, where he has to populate the land, where he has bad thoughts. women don't have these problems. They're not obligated to populate the land according to the Rambam, and also according to the Rambam, women do not have bad thoughts. So therefore, if a woman decides to stay single the rest of her life, she didn't do no sin whatsoever. So let's just see this halacha. A woman is not obligated in the mitzvah on being fruitful and multiplying. Nevertheless, says the Rama, nevertheless, nevertheless, a woman still should not be without a husband because of suspicion. And we saw this whole beheitav. Halacha Yud Dalet, and the final halacha for Siman aleph. Din mishenasa isha, the law of one who married a woman, v'shaha ima 10 shanim v'lo yalda, and he waited with her 10 years and she did not give birth. Yitba'er sham, it's going to be explained over there. So Rabotai, with this we conclude the Siman aleph. Let's just do a small chazara. In halacha Yud aleph, even though we know according to the Shulchan Aruch, the Cherem of Ben Geshem is not applicable to the Sephardim, nevertheless, the Shulchan Aruch reinforces the idea that it is good to go ahead and make a regulation of bans and excommunications for men that want to marry more than one wife. There should be punishable by consequences if they do. Halacha Yud Bet, anybody who swore that he's never going to marry another woman and for whatever reason his wife was not able to have children after 10 years, this halacha Rabotai is brought down in Kuf Yud Chet. Halacha Yud Gimel, we saw a woman is not commended on the mitzvah of bringing children to the world. She's not obligated in being fruitful and multiplying. Nevertheless, the Ramah said, still a woman should not be without a husband because of suspicion. We did see the beheitav where the beheitav asked, how can it be that the Rambam in one place he writes that a woman should get married because of suspicion? We don't want people to suspect her. And in another place he writes that it's optional for a woman never ever to get married. So the beheitav answered, he said this, that the Rambam says that a woman should get married and not be without a husband because of suspicion, that's only sound advice, so people shouldn't suspect her, but not to say that she's obligated to get married. So therefore it makes sense with the other halacha that states a woman never ever has to get married. It's her choice. And it went on to explain that even on a rabbinical level, she's not doing any sin. She's not doing the sin of populating because it's not placed on her, it's placed on the men. And she doesn't have the sin of bad thoughts because men have it and not women. And in halacha Yud Daled, we said anybody who married a woman and he waited with her 10 years without having children, this halacha is going to be explained over there also. In any event, Rabotai, Be'ezrat Hashem B'lineder, in the following class, we're going to begin a new siman bet. In this siman, the Shulchan Aruch says, you have Yud Aleph Sifim, 11 halachot. What is the topic going to be? We're going to start speaking about Yishtadel kol adam likach lo isha haguna. Every single person should try to take for himself a wife. What kind of wife? A proper wife. It is very important, Rabotai, we know what does it mean a proper wife and what's not a proper wife. Be'ezrat Hashem B'lineder, we're going to start seeing these halachot in Siman Bet of the class. The Gemara Masechet Barachot says, matzah or motzeh. If you ask a guy, matzah or motzeh, tell me one word, matzah or motzeh. If the guy says matzah, that means he found himself a good wife because it says, matzah isha matzah tov, he found a wife, that means he found good, meaning a good wife. But if the guy says motzeh, that means he has a bad wife. Because the verse says, motzeh ani mar memavet et isha. I found something more bitter than death, which is the woman, which means he has a bad wife. So therefore, Rabotai, it's very important to make sure that we marry proper women. Anyway, have a great day. Congratulations. Really, it's a very big accomplishment to be able to finish Siman Aleph in HaEzer. Have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen ve'amen.